Let's be friends.
Have you not?
Here we go.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to the Ambassador Wing. We are back again with episode 2 of the 90s Retro Rewind podcast, continuing our retrospective on the films of Mr. Quentin Tarantino. And today we are discussing arguably probably one of his best pieces of work, particularly this was a iconic film of the 90s, Pulp Fiction. I am, of course, your host, the Ambassador. With me today, I've got my two fellow panelists, Mr. Ace Mowick and Mr. Zach Larry. Gentlemen, good to see you both. Glad you're here. And, well, we're going further down the rabbit hole of Tarantino. So I think I'll just say this briefly. I think for a lot of people, this was their entry point into the filmography of Mr. Quentin Tarantino. And honestly, I think this is one of his more iconic and well-known films. Granted, all his films are well-known, but this was the one that got everybody's attention and eyeballs and ears on Tarantino and his work. So, that being said, let's jump in. Pulp Fiction. Guys, your thoughts?
You want to start, Zach, or would you like me to start?
No, go ahead, man.
Well, I would definitely agree. This is my intro to Tarantino. Not as a whole, but as a director. My first intro to him was in From Dusk Till Dawn as a writer and actor, but this was my very first Tarantino viewing experience, and it kind of, for me, was overhyped, but once I saw the movie a few times, I began to enjoy it and said, okay, yeah, I get what he's doing. I like him as a director. This works for him. Some people can say he's overrated, and okay, that's fine.
I mean, it's a unique little movie. It is small. I mean, when you watch it again and watch it over and over again, it is kind of a small, little self-contained little thing. And I really love all the little side characters that you meet throughout the movie. I mean, like even Lance, the hippie dude who helps revive Mia. Just a lot of little fun performances.
Played by Eric Stoltz.
Yep, Eric Stoltz, great actor. And a lot of weird little subplots. Mia's super interesting character, and you basically only see her in that one little sequence. Marcellus Wallace kind of hiding in the shadows. With a, by the way, great fucking voice on Ving Rhames. Just his opening little monologue to Butch at the bar with that song. Great song choices. It's kind of a hangout movie. It's a crime movie. It's a buddy cop movie. It's weird. It is definitely weird. And Tarantino liked the idea of doing separate stories that he later went in and kind of intertwined them. And apparently, guys, the pulp genre is something I have no idea about. But I watched a couple Tarantino interviews leading up to our review. And apparently pulp is like from a series of comic books. It was a comic book genre. And it was short stories and poetry. So apparently that's what inspired Quentin.
Oh, yeah. Quentin is very much a child of, like, I think he was born in, like, the late 60s or early 70s, somewhere along in there, because he's still fairly young, relatively speaking. And he very much grew up in Southern California. He grew up in those decades where pulp comics, the underground comics, the kind of grunge and grimy and crime stories were his bread and butter. That's what influenced him as a writer and as a director, and I'd say in some ways how he acts, because he probably grew up watching a lot of those old black and white crime stories and cops and robbers movies and gangster movies and all those sorts of things. And what he did with Pulp Fiction was he took it, he put a twist on it, he somewhat modernized it, but at the same time, he kept the same vibe, the same aesthetic for this movie. I didn't see this movie until like a couple of years after I was out of high school, but I heard all my friends talking about, like, hey, have you seen Pulp Fiction? I'm like, no, what's Pulp Fiction? They're like, dude, you've got to see Pulp Fiction. Finally, we got our first VCR. I saw it on the shelf at Blockbuster, and I grabbed that sucker and like, holy freaking cow, this movie is so freaking bad, freaking ass, and I loved it. There's only one scene that bothers me, but we'll get to that in time, and I think we all know what scene that is. It involves Bruce Willis and Ving Rhames and a couple of rednecks, and well, we'll leave it at that for now.
Quentin was a Deliverance fan.
and while it's still fresh on the brain, I just want to say Pulp was actually a predecessor to comic books. It was basically, like you said, collected short stories, but Pulp is just like a industry term for basically the quality of the paper they'd print the stories on. It was both, cheap paperback books and obviously comic books in the early golden age.
Yeah, obviously. And
yeah,
I mean, this is a movie that has such a stellar, absolutely freaking stellar ass awesome cast. I mean, we all know Travolta. This was his big comeback movie. Samuel Jackson. This really put him on the radar. I mean, Bruce Willis. Bruce Willis has always been Bruce Willis. Sadly, he can't act anymore. But we have this movie. We have him as Butch Coolidge. We've got Harvey Keitel as Winston Wolfe. We've got Tarantino as Jimmy, who is not in charge of dead black people storage, obviously. I can't say the word. I'll get in trouble. YouTube will take this video down in 10 seconds if I say that word. So
if my pal Jay was here, he could say it on our behalf, and we'll see if we can get away with it. Because he could say it.
Yeah, that's okay. He probably could, but I can't. But regardless, you've got Pumpkin and Honey Bunny played by Tim Roth and I think it's Amanda Plummer. We've got Mia Wallace played by, of course, Miss Uma Thurman. We love Uma Thurman. We will be discussing a movie that she's featured in, or a pair of movies that she's featured in here in a few weeks. Just a banger of a cast, and of course a banger of a writer and a director. So obviously this movie is extremely disjointed and out of sequence, so I think we should approach this discussion in the same fashion. So where would you guys like to start? What story tickles your fancy the most?
You want to start with Mia?
We can start with Mia and Vincent Vega. Yeah, we can do that part. Totally.
I got the vibe this time around, guys, that she's kind of covertly an evil character.
I don't know if she's evil. I don't get that vibe.
She's trying to seduce Vega. I think that do we agree on that?
I don't know about that.
Not really. No.
I think she gets off on messing around with other dudes and having Marcellus beat the shit out of him or kill him. That was kind of the vibe I got.
Well,
she might be flirtatious, but that's not necessarily the same thing as actually doing anything with him, because she does mention that at the diner, not to spring too far ahead, but in the diner when Vincent asks her about the whole foot massage incident with the character whose name I can't remember.
Tony Rocky Horror.
Tony what?
Tony Rocky Horror.
Tony Rocky
Horror.
Horror. Yeah, and how the only interaction she ever had with him in terms of physical was when he shook her hand on their wedding day. So it doesn't seem like she does anything to,
No, she
with men to get Marcellus to, mess with them. Marcellus does not.
Because here's the thing. She could totally rent out Vincent. She doesn't. So my impression is, is she a bit flirtatious? Sure. But she is not by any means unfaithful to Marcellus, nor is she trying to set guys up for Marcellus to beat the ever-living crap out of.
See, I'm not convinced of that, though.
I think she is a very loving. I would picture the impression. Well, what's your evidence? Because you've really not presented anything that makes me believe that she is by any means malicious in anything that she does.
Well, it's multiple choice.
Okay, I will say this much.
Wait. There is evidence. We have the rumors about her, and we have what the bartender says to Vincent. Where he just kind of laughs at him. Oh, I hear you're checking out
Unsubstantiated.
the. All right, but I'm just saying that is worth looking at for me at least.
What the bartender say? I can't remember that scene.
He kind of.
It's during the. Go ahead, Zach.
No, go ahead, Bob.
Honestly, what the bartender says, I think, is nothing more than feeding into the whole camp story or the campfire circle that all the guys that worked for Marcellus and everything have cooked up in their own heads. They probably all have a thing for Mia, but they know they touch her, they're going to get their shit kicked in. Marcellus Wallace does not F around. But do I think he deliberately beat up a guy just because he gave his new wife a foot massage? Hell no. Antonio Rockihara probably did something that he should not have done. He probably screwed up a deal, screwed something up. And yeah, Marcellus took his fat Samoan ass and threw it off a 4-story balcony into a greenhouse. Mia Wallace is not. The only thing I will say that is a character defect of Mia Wallace, she's a druggie.
Yep, junkie.
I mean, she is dumb. How dumb do you have to be to not to be able to tell the difference between one illegal drug and another? Now, granted, yes, there are similarities. No, I don't know this from firsthand experience, but I've seen enough movies, I've seen enough crime photos to know the difference from that. How do you not tell one illegal substance from another? She almost OD'd.
I actually do.
Go ahead, Ace. What the hell?
But I will say this though, to me, Mia is a dangerous character, and that was the big, alarm I got rewatching it.
I don't perceive her as dangerous by any extent. Is she a bit reckless? Yeah, maybe, but dangerous? No. Mm-mm.
I think so.
Ace, if you hear me, buddy, you've gone frozen, bud. I'm going to back you out and bring you back in, buddy. So, hang on one second.
What she knows though that she's got this Rottweiler, behind her, Marcellus. I don't know.
Well,
here's the thing. But here's the thing. If you guys don't believe the rumors, and I do, that creates a different viewing experience.
Yeah, but here's the thing. She doesn't do anything. It does, but at the same time, her
behavior vindicates all those rumors to me, as well. I mean,
to me, it's completely
in a
those rumors are
salacious way.
All those rumors are completely unsubstantiated as far as I'm concerned, because she doesn't behave. She doesn't.
She doesn't behave. Though Quentin is that kind of guy where he wants you to interpret his movies. So we just have a different.
And I'm not saying that your interpretation. It's your interpretation. I don't happen to agree with it. Respectfully, I don't see Mia Wallace as by any means. So, I mean, does she have a certain air about her? Is she seductive? Yes, I would agree in that aspect. She very much is. But is she deliberately trying to get guys beat up by her husband and his crew? No. I don't see it that way. I see her as reckless. I see her as a bit flirtatious. Except for being a drug addict, I don't see either one of those things as I don't see those as evidence of her being a dangerous individual that men shouldn't be around. Would I be able to withstand her flirtation? Yeah, of course I could. Because I know my limits. I know where to say, okay, stop, back up. No.
But why?
Because I respect your husband, my boss. I don't think she actually does it if that indeed was the case, I don't think she does it knowingly or even wittingly.
Okay.
That just may
Interesting
be
though.
part of her personality.
It, interesting little side
It
note.
might be
I
part
don't
of her
want to take up
personality,
a
but I
bunch of
don't
time
think.
on this.
No, it's fine. I mean, it's a good discussion. It's a good point to debate. So, I
Okay.
just
Well, just
I don't
making
see it the
sure.
way you do. I interpret it differently. No, no disrespect, no offense taken. You have a point. I have a point. We don't happen to share same said point. So, I will say in terms of Vincent, I can see why this relaunched John Travolta's career in a lot of ways. I mean, when you've got like a fairly newcomer director in terms of Tarantino, and he's like, dude, I've seen your movies, I love your movies. He's like, I want to work with you again at some point, but we'll just have to wait for the right project. And then poof, out of the blue, he's like, he sends Travolta the script for Pulp Fiction, and Travolta's like, okay, yeah, I'm in. And the other thing I will say about Travolta's performance in this movie, Vincent Vega isn't okay. Obviously, he's a hired man. He's part of a criminal crew. Do I consider him necessarily a inherently through and through bad guy? Not particularly. I consider him kind of the same vein as his character in Get Shorty, Chili Palmer. Although Chili Palmer is little bit more together and a little more self-aware and what have you. Vincent Vega is a little more, for lack of a better word, oafish. Maybe not as quiet as together as somebody in his line of work should be, because he comes out into the middle of a stick up in a diner, and instead of going to the bathroom and doing his business, he's in there sitting on his ass reading. And not once but twice, those those elements bite him in the ass. Okay, Ace is back. But that's just my take on Vincent Vega. Uh, Ace and Zach, or Ace, we were. Was there
Sorry
any
about
other
that. Just
points in
broke out
terms
the
of?
power.
It's okay, bud. Yeah, these things happen. So, what were your thoughts? Or anything? Because we can backtrack to what I was talking about. What were your thoughts on Zach's interpretation of Mia? Did you agree? Did you disagree? What's your take?
Of her kind of setting up guys to like be roughed up by Marcellus if not killed. I don't really, but
Yeah.
I mean she seems nice to Vincent, but although there is a fan theory of Vincent being tight with Marcellus. I mean, like how when we first see Marcellus and Vincent meet, obviously after they get the briefcase and whatnot delivered to him, Marcellus greets Vincent with a hug and whatnot, and he greets Jules, just like a colleague, like a handshake or whatever it is. So we can see that there's some that Marcellus and Vincent are
Camaraderie.
cool. So I think,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, and,
camaraderie. Thank you. So I don't think she would
well, and here's
necessarily
the
mess with him in that regard.
well, and here's the other thing too. Marcellus asks Vincent while he's out of town on business to check in on Mia, to take her on a date, to make sure she doesn't get lonely, to make sure she doesn't get bored. You only do that with a guy you know you can trust to the nth degree. This is your wife, you're newly married to her, and if I was in a similar situation, like if I was going to be if I was going like on a trip and it was only going to be me and Mam Ambassador is going to be on her own, I get a hold of one of my buddies from high school, or one of our friends from college or whatever, and say, hey, do me a favor. You don't have to take her on a date. You just, or a female friend of ours that we were both friends with mutually in college or whatever. I'd be like, hey, you go check, make sure she doesn't get bored, make sure she doesn't get lonely, maybe she or whatever. If y'all want to go have a girls' night out or whatever, go do that. That's that. There's a degree of trust between Marcellus and Vincent, where Marcellus knows that he can trust this guy not to try funny business with his wife. Now, obviously, there's that scene in the bathroom at Marcellus and Mia's house, but Vincent ultimately talks himself through, and he's like, you know what? You're going to go out there, you're going to shake your hand, you're going to you have a lovely evening, you're going to go home, jack off, and you're going to go to bed. And that's all you're going to damn well do.
But she put him in that position, though. I mean, she's totally, given green lights. I mean,
I don't see the green.
I think it's an interesting little side note, And again, I didn't want to make a big thing out of it, but to me,
it's not a big thing. It's a good point to bring up.
It could be his interpretation of green lights. I mean, because like
Vincent's too. But see, if I'm going off the character, he's getting green lights.
Well, Vincent's not exactly a bright guy. I mean, there's some types of guys aren't. Like, this is the signal, Jerry. And it was completely wrong. Sorry, that didn't mean to go off on Seinfeld tangent, but
okay.
But I think Vincent's just completely missing the situation or misreading the situation. I mean, keep in mind the dude was dumb enough to not get turn around with a loaded gun in hand and
blow another guy's head off.
Yeah. Okay, I wasn't sure about the spoiler thing, but yeah,
this is a 30-some-odd-year-old movie, Ace. There are no spoilers in this movie.
I know. I was just trying to be nice.
We can allude to things that happen. Look, everybody that's going to watch this is probably seen the movie. If you have never seen the movie, disclaimer: don't watch this video until you've watched Pulp Fiction all the way through. Just saying.
Yeah.
I know my audience. I know the people that come here to watch these. They have seen this movie. They want to hear our takes on it. So there is no such thing as a spoiler here. This is a movie that's 30 years old, give or take. So,
okay.
But yeah, Vincent is not necessarily what you would call the sharpest tool in the shed, but he is by no means a dummy either.
And not to mention...
Go ahead.
Not to mention, after, we see him talking to his drug dealer buddy and saying like how he had just gotten his car out of storage after 3 years in Amsterdam, that some POS decided to key scratch it up. And he's like, if I could find the guy, you can't put two and two together. Might have been that guy back at the bar that you called a palooka, which is a slur against boxers who take a dive, which is why Butch did it, because he clearly did.
I think you're right. I never put that together, so thank you, Ace. Really.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that is very, very, very likely, and then he ends up killing him. But we'll get to that when we get to that.
But I wanted to finish the point I was trying to say before the storm cut me off is another reason I don't think that Uma Thurman's character Mia took me a second. Why I don't think she's necessarily a manipulator man. I think that's kind of giving her too much credit. I wouldn't call her a ditz, but maybe not the most common sense, because this is her first time hanging out with Vincent. She finds drugs in his pocket. Obviously, we see she's doing cocaine, and she finds drugs in his pocket. She's really going to think that that all drug dealers are straight shooters, because that was heroin in that bag. And the typical way you store heroin is you have it in a balloon. But the drug dealer even said, I'm out of balloons, so you mind a baggie? And that's how it was. So, a baggie would be for coke or whatever, anything, and weed and whatnot. So she would probably just assume, it's cocaine or whatever. You gotta ask your friends, otherwise you don't know what you're doing.
You're going to get effed up. You're going to get seriously effed up.
Maybe it mixed.
You're going to get a shot of adrenaline.
Maybe it's a mixed cocktail, like a speedball or something, heroin and coke. Or wait, sorry, knows? You shoot up heroin, then you do a line of coke, or vice versa, one of those two.
Yeah, exactly.
I've never done those drugs, for the record, people. I know a lot of rock music history that's killed people.
Yeah, obviously, neither have I, but we all have seen enough movies involving drugs that we know the difference, and we've seen enough crime scene footage and so on, and crime stories on cable, that we know what one drug looks like compared to another, and how they are or how they are more likely distributed. So,
And Breaking Bad showed
but
people how to make meth.
yep, pretty much. the here's the here's the other funny thing about that whole sequence between Mia and Vincent is, okay, we gotta talk about Jackrabbit Slims. We cannot skip Jackrabbit Slims because I loved this restaurant. I absolutely loved the concept for this restaurant. If this restaurant existed in real life or something equivalent to it, oh, my ass would be there in 10 seconds. I as Vincent said, it's like a wax museum with a pulse. That's how I would exactly describe it myself. So I love Jackrabbit Slims. I love that whole sequence. And seeing John Travolta getting up on stage again, dancing when he was known for that in the 70s in particular. So, guys, your thoughts on the Jackrabbit Swim sequence between Mia and Vincent?
Take it away, Zach.
I think Zach's still getting his drink, so Ace, go ahead.
So you said the difference between what?
No difference. Your thoughts on the Jackrabbit Swim sequence?
I think he means Vincent's quote.
No, just the whole sequence in general.
Oh.
I think it's cool. I mean, the movie has got hangout movie vibes written all over it. I mean, at least at the beginning of the movie. And I don't know. We're just having a good time. We're just hanging out. I mean, that's kind of how it feels. Great music, great aesthetic, a lot of great little character scenes. She won't tell him the secret, what is it, catchphrase to her character on some TV show, something like that.
The joke. Yeah, the pilot that she did. The joke. Yeah.
Foxy 5
yeah,
or something.
I mean, and it's just cool. I mean,
Fox Force 5.
Steve Buscemi cameo in there. He's playing the waiter.
Buddy Holly waiter, yep.
Was that Steve Buscemi?
It's cool.
Yeah, if you listen, that's his voice. You would not recognize him.
No, I didn't. Not at all. The dance number, of course, is very iconic of the movie. Obviously, it's one of the things everybody remembers. I mean, you've got impersonators in there. You've got Martin Lewis. You've got Marilyn Monroe, James Mansfield. You've got Zorro. You've got James Dean. It's a who's who of 1950s and 60s stars and characters. That's the sort of place I would frequent, even in my age, because I love those sorts of places growing up as a kid. There was actually a little side story. I'll make it quick. Back many moons ago, with my now ex-wife, we made a trip down to Disney World back when it was normal. And in the Hollywood Studios wing, they had a place called the Sci-Fi Drive-In Diner. And you could actually sit in one of those cars, in a car and everything, much like the same mock-up that they have at Jackrabbit Slims. And they played old science fiction movies, old B movies up on this drive-in movie screen. And Jackrabbit Slims reminded me so much of that restaurant. Food was pretty good too. So, but
sounds like a delight.
It was fun. I'm not gonna lie, that was fun. It was a lot of fun. But okay, let's see. Mia and Vincent's little section. The only part we haven't really discussed is her ODing and Vincent taking her to Lance's. So, thoughts on that part, guys? What'd y'all think?
Well, I don't think I had my chance to talk about Jackrabbit Slims.
Okay, by all means.
Yeah,
I just wanted go ahead.
I like 50s theme restaurants was not something that I would like. You would think I'd like, but Jackrabbit Slims makes it seem so cool and whatnot. It makes you think, I wonder what characters they'd have. Like, would they have like a different waiter, like a different character covering this section that night, and so on and so forth, or do they trade them out so that it's always a Buddy Holly in this section, or is it like Buddy Holly one night, Chuck Berry another night, maybe Jerry Lee Lewis or something like that, and et cetera, et cetera. And it was a little fun little scene. I mean, I know it's a 50s diner, but it kind of reminds me of the movie American Graffiti, but because,
Yes.
that was early 60s, so it's still a similar aesthetic to the 1950s.
Yes.
And I thought I had something else to say about the place. Oh, now I remember what I was going to say. I wouldn't be surprised if one day, if there were some fans, I'm not saying that this will happen or I hope it happens, but I would not be surprised if one day, when Quentin Tarantino passes on, if some people that were real big fans opened a Tarantino themed restaurant and called it Jackrabbit Slims, and maybe in the restaurant they did have like not just the food that's on the Jackrabbit Slims menu, but maybe even the Big Kahuna Burger or something.
I would go to that restaurant.
Me too.
I would totally go to that restaurant. All right, Zach, you're up.
You could have
bud.
the servers. You'd have the servers, like the waiters, all dress up like Tarantino characters.
Exactly.
Yes. Oh man, I love that idea.
Yeah,
and they can't just all be the guys in black and white suits.
No, you can have one person.
Have, 8 of them?
Maybe.
No, because you're going to have the bride. You're going to have Django. You're going to have
Bill.
You're going to have Bill. You're going to have the Deadly Viper hit squad. You're going to have.
But Bob, the Vipers are only here on Wednesday.
Zach, Ambassador. Zach, Ambassador.
And
that's only for
in joke.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll ask after the stream if I'm allowed.
I was talking about Bob De Niro. What a great actor.
Screw Bob De Niro. He's an asshole.
All right.
He's a
I said great actor. I didn't say great humanitarian or anything else.
And what was the other character? I think they can include Stuntman Mike from Death Proof.
Yes.
Kind of a forgot. Well, not really forgotten, but he flies under the radar compared to some other Tarantino's other movies.
Oh, and Aldo the Apache and Hans Landa from Inglourious Bastards. You gotta have those two as waiters. Or potentially. So, okay. Any other thoughts on Mia and Vincent and their little story?
Yeah, I like the hippie, man. I like Lance. You know, it's.
I think we all. Well, here's the thing. Go ahead, Zach.
Yeah. What is the thing?
Lance was played by Eric Stoltz. That guy had not acted in a while, and that was a good part for him.
That was the guy that was originally cast for Marty McFly before he was replaced with Michael J. Fox, right?
I think so. I think so.
Back to the Future, for those of you who don't know. Who my king? You all know. You know what channel this is.
Yes, you do.
He did a horrific
Why you're here?
Too, right? He was playing Back to the Future like a drama.
But it wasn't meant to be a drama. It was meant to be a comedy.
But I mean, Tarantino ropes characters into the story. I mean, you call up Lance, he's just sitting there watching TV,
eating cereal,
eating fruit brute.
Yeah, and I wonder if just like how he has long hair, bit of facial hair, chilling in his robe and shorts, eating cereal. And this movie takes place in the early 90s. I wonder if he was another one of those characters, at least fictional characters, that inspired another fictional character from a late 90s movie of a similar guy, the Dude.
The Dude from The Big Lebowski.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, Ace. Now, if we can just connect it somehow to Kevin Bacon.
There's a way. Where there's a will, there's a way with 7 Degrees of Kevin Bacon. Yeah.
No, I
another
think it's 6
another
degrees of
another great chill out movie or whatever you were referred to it as,
the
Zach.
Big Lebowski. I've actually never seen the Big Lebowski all the way through.
Dude,
Yeah, I
it's
know.
great.
I know. Anyway, okay. Moving on. Let's see. Why don't we move on to why don't we move on to the gold watch? That way we can get the elephant out of the room.
Oh yes.
So let's move on to the gold watch. And a personal favorite actor of me and Mr. Zach over here. Grant, he only has one scene in the whole damn movie, but he owns that scene, Mr. Christopher Walken.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the Gimp.
No, we'll get to the Gimp later. No, Christopher Walken as Captain Coons talking to a young Butch who was watching one of those old cheesy 1960s cartoons where they have the cartoon face and the person's real mouth talking. That's the stuff of freaking nightmares.
I remember when on a kind of on topic that was homaged on the DVD of The Incredibles with a fake Incredibles cartoon of Mr. Incredible and Frozone, and when you see it, like it's made like two period, like it is. It is strange. I mean, obviously constraints of lazy animation, but yeah, potential nightmare fuel. I agree.
Yes, especially if you do too much Coke.
Especially if that person did not floss that day.
Yes. So, thoughts on the gold watch, fellas? Who wants to go first?
Zach?
Well, I mean, that watch has seen some shit, right? I mean, I'm sorry.
Literally.
I'm sorry. I mean, I couldn't
No,
help
that's a good one. That's a good one.
It's interesting what Quentin decides to focus on. I mean, how many other directors would even put a scene like that in there and not cut it? I mean, it's a hangout movie. I mean, Quentin's kind of a hangout guy. That's his favorite genre.
Hangout movie. That's
what I
was looking for.
It's an interesting choice to even put that in there. I mean, it's a great little monologue, but I could see countless directors just cutting that. So it's a testament to Quentin that he lets the story kind of wander around.
Well, and here's the thing. Butch is a character that I think needed a focus. He needed his own segment. Granted, he only had one scene. That's the scene between him and Marcellus a few days before the fight. And Butch jumps out of at least a 2-story window into a dumpster, throws out his duffel bag before him, and then jumps out of the dumpster and into a cab driven by Esmeralda Villalobos. And what a I don't know who plays I don't know who the actress's name who plays her, but damn, she was good.
And I find it funny how with the gold watch, like that's a dream scene. Like Butch, when he's before he's about to go out to fight, that's a dream he's having. I think he's dreaming about a monologue about how his dad's veteran buddy had a gold watch up his ass. Funny thing to dream about, especially such description.
But someone, yeah, really. He's like, he wore this uncomfortable hunk of metal up his ass 5 years. And obviously, I can't do the delivery that Walken can, but Walken nails it in this scene, and he only has that one damn scene in the whole movie, and it's hard to believe that this is the only time that Walken ever worked with Tarantino.
Strangely
at least to
enough.
my knowledge.
Yeah.
And I would have thought a guy like Walken would have been in more of Tarantino's movies, but at the same time, I'm kind of glad he isn't because his performance in this one scene is so damn good.
Well, True Romance is kind of a collaboration. He's at least saying Tarantino dialogue in True Romance.
Granted, yeah, that's true. That's true. Grant, I've never seen
So,
True Romance, but I'm going to
But
get
he
that
kills.
someday.
I mean, look, man, Chris Walken
Yes.
kills. I mean, that dude kills just about every time. But him with Quentin—that's an interesting pairing. Walken doing Tarantino
Totally.
dialogue.
And he does such a great job. And you've got this young kid who's sitting there just listening to this, and he's just focused
not at all phased.
and then he wakes up and everything from that dream or whatever. Okay. See you in a minute, bud. And he gets he's running, and Esmeralda Villalobos asks him, "What's it like to kill a man?" And he's like, "Honey, up until you told me a few minutes ago, I didn't even know I killed him. But now that you ask me, I don't feel two ways about it. I don't care. The guy should have never been in the damn ring in the first place. He was a rookie. He was a chump." He's like, "So what? I killed him."
If he
Granted,
dies,
that sends
he
him on
dies.
a. Yeah, I mean, that's the crazy thing. Butch is not a bad guy. I mean, Butch is probably the most morally relatable character in this whole damn movie. I mean, yeah, he lays some bets on a fight that he's in, but who wouldn't? When the odds were going out, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm going to take this money that Marcellus Wallace gave him," and he laid a bunch of bets. It was a smart move as a boxer and as a gambler. And he made off like Flynn.
And
So,
especially,
your thoughts?
well, also, especially when you think about, because I wonder, since you mentioned how Tarantino was kind of grew up on things like old exploitation, black and white movies, and pulps and comics, because he's even said like he loved things like Iron Fist, Luke Cage, and whatnot. I wonder if the Butch stories, because there are obviously pulp stories about in old crime films about broken boxers and so forth. But I wonder if it was also influenced by Daredevil's origin with his dad being a broken down boxer and so forth. And
That's a possibility.
And I think this, like him placing the bet on himself, might have influenced the Netflix show where Daredevil's dad does that in the backstory. But also with boxers, like he's described by Vincent as being a palooka, basically a guy that takes dives. And Bruce Willis, he's probably in his early to mid 40s in this movie,
roughly. Yeah.
And that's kind of like the end of the career for a boxer. At that point, you're just getting paid to take hits. You're not really going to be a champ. You're just basically being a breathing punching bag for the younger guys to wail on. And he probably saw the writing on the wall, like, I don't want to do this no more. I ain't got much years left. So that's why he's just like, take Marcellus's money, cash it out in through a bet and run.
And it worked. And he's got himself a nice woman, Fabienne. Little French cutie, and then everything goes.
Sexy.
Huh?
Who strangely thinks pot bellies are sexy? They're not.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
Like
yeah,
it's like if a guy said, "Oh, a beer gut is sexy." No, it ain't.
No, it isn't. By no means.
I remember this, like on that topic. I'm sorry, Ambassador, but I remember this discussion I had with a friend of mine at the time about like what is with this scene. Her saying pot bellies are sexy because it didn't make sense to me. And my friend, she says like, "Oh, she's talking about having a baby." No, she isn't. She just says the belly. She doesn't say nothing about a kid, just the belly.
And
same thigh, same face. Nope, everything gets fat.
Pretty much. But they have this very nice. It seems like they have a very stable relationship. Grant, he's obviously got some anger issues as a boxer, but he knows when to rein it in. He knows when to not take it out on her. He seems like he generally does love her and cares for her, and she and Fabienne likewise. And with Tarantino, romantic dialogue isn't necessarily his strong suit per se, but with this interaction, with this particular scene or this particular sequence in the movie, he does a good job with the dialogue between Butch and Fabian. So I don't want to dwell too much on it, but I do want to remark on it because Tarantino is more known for his more grittier, grimier, actionier dialogue. But at the same time, he does a very good job.
And
Okay, will do, bud.
when she requests for him to give her oral pleasure, I could give Tarantino points for not actually, like, obviously you couldn't show the nudity, but like not even some like showing a guy's face in between some woman's legs without showing the actors' faces. I'm glad he did not do that. I think good on him. He
Yeah.
did. He has a touch of class.
Oh yeah.
And with the anger issues that you mentioned, Butch has, the only time we really see him get angry with her was when she forgot the watch, but it is because it has sentimental value. It was something his dad
extreme
left
sentimental value.
Yeah, his dad left for him when he was a kid. He had his combat buddy bring it to his only son before he died, and so forth. And it was important. It was like in his family for like how many generations? You said
3, because it was bought by his great great grandfather during World War One. His grandfather, his great grandfather came home from World War One. His grandfather, unfortunately, did not, but he entrusted it to somebody that was there on Wake Island before the attack, and the guy after the war sought out his grandmother, gave it to her, and then went to his father. So technically, 4 generations, because Butch would be the 4th generation, because it's grandfather, it's great grandfather, grandfather, father, son.
Yeah, so you can see why he gets worked. Yeah, you can see why you'd get so worked up about it, and it might have been just an honest mistake. But he's like, I told he just throws the luggage against the wall, calms down. He's like, sorry.
The television.
Yeah, walks out. Yeah, the television walks out the door, and he has his freak out in the car. He's like, I told her 1,000 times to not forget the watch. Like rather than explode on her. So like he does show some hostility
restraint
to her. He reins it back in, like you said.
Yeah. So Zach, your thoughts on that scene?
So why did Quentin put it in there, fellas? I mean, what is your how does that connect? Him losing the watch, is there a significance between that and him throwing the fight? Is that karma? What do you think?
I don't think it's any degree of karma because he didn't necessarily do anything wrong. The only thing that he potentially did wrong was killed the other fighter, but he unwittingly, not deliberately. If we were going like with criminal charges, this would be like 1st or maybe 3rd degree manslaughter. That's the lower end of manslaughter. It was not premeditated. He did not plan on killing him. He even said so to the cab driver. So that's the only morally questionable thing that Butch did. Marcellus put out the hit on him. Marcellus put the hit out on him for not throwing the fight, and I would imagine he wasn't none too pleased that he killed the boxer that Marcellus was backing. The whole sequence between him running into Marcellus, I would say that was most definitely self-defense because Marcellus was in the process of drawing a gun. He was armed. You could see the shoulder holster underneath his jacket. He gets knocked out by Maynard, the pawn shop owner. He does the same thing to Marcellus and then drags him down into the basement. Butch doesn't get the worst end of this. Marcellus, unfortunately, does. But in the end, they both come to an understanding because Butch does come back and saves his life. He does allow him to defend himself, and Marcellus is very amiable toward him. He's like, your LA privileges are revoked permanently. You leave, you ever come back, you're dead. I think in the terms of a person like Marcellus Wallace, you're getting off extremely easy in that situation. But at the same time, there's an understanding between the two of them. Nobody's going to say nothing about what happened. I don't even think Butch would even say anything to Fabienne about what happened. Not in as a gruesome detail as one might think. He might say, well, he said what he said. He's like, honey, after I left here today, I had one of the weirdest days of my entire life. But he's like, we've got to go. We've got to get our train. He's like, I'll tell you on the way. But I don't think he went into lurid detail about what happened between him and Marcellus and Maynard and Zed. All he said about Zed was Zed is dead. And of course, Ving Rhames coined a line of dialogue that we even use nowadays. He's like, I'm going to go medieval on your ass. And if I was Marcellus Wallace, I would have said that. Probably worse.
Yeah. The pair of pliers and a blowtorch. That
I'm gonna call a pair of hard pipe hitting guys, and they're gonna go to town on your ass with a pair of pliers and a blowtorch. I'm gonna get medieval on your ass. I am going to fuck you up.
Where are we when you need you, Jay?
These are the greatest voices ever, man.
Yeah.
And funny thing, like when you mentioned like how does the gold watch tie into the boxing thing? Like obviously the boxing thing is just to be an excuse to get him into the conflict with the Marcellus at the end. Because actually, I was watching a video this last week, and there is this fan theory of how Quentin designed that, that flashback describing the scene between like his dad and his combat pal, like basically they're in it together, is supposed to mirror Butch and Marcellus in that basement, get being under these guys that took them prisoner, and Marcellus getting violated in the butt, like how like Gold Watch probably would have, and Butch going back to save him. And some people think like, why would Butch go back to save him? He's not exactly a moral character. And the video mentioned an interesting little detail is as Butch escapes from the his shackles and punches out the gimp, he's about to walk out the store, and it's a blink you miss it moment. He passes a Tennessee license plate, and Tennessee, when Christopher Walken is telling the story, is where that pawn shop was where his great grandfather got that watch. So I wonder if he might have seen that from the corner of his eye, and it just clicked in his mind, and he thought that watch, my dad's pal, was in combat with him. And, they were both prisoner, and they protected each other. And like, maybe I need to look out for Marcellus. And it wasn't. If some of it was probably self-preservation, like what if Marcellus gets out and so on and so forth, I didn't help him. And especially because Marcellus would find out about Vincent being dead. And so that'd be more strikes against him. He's like, well, I can save him from this. Maybe he won't be as pissed about Vincent being dead. But it's hard to say.
Yeah.
But Butch does betray Marcellus. I mean, he puts the money on himself, doesn't he? Mm-hmm. So he does betray him, intending not to throw the fight. I think he planned to knock the guy out, not kill him, but he did betray him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Betrayed, in a manner of speaking, yes. Did Butch plan to kill the guy? No. Did he plan to probably knock him out and give him a good whipping? Yeah. He wasn't going to just go down like some chump. He'd been disrespected by Vincent. He had been disrespected by Marcellus. And he's like, no. He's like, even if it costs me my neck, I'm going to have to be very careful. I'm going to have to be on my guard. I got to make sure everything is lined up just so that we can get out of Dodge before they catch our asses and find out where we're at. So Fabienne forgetting the watch, him coming across Marcellus in the middle of the street, running into him, and all of that, I would call that almost like a very dark comedy of errors, but at the same time in the same vein of a comedy of errors, because Fabienne forgetting the watch set the whole chain of events in motion. If she had never forgotten the watch, he would have never had to go back to his apartment. He would have never been out in public. He wouldn't have been on that street. He would never come across Marcellus. They would have never gone into that pawn shop, and none of what happened after that would have happened. So unintentionally, very extremely so, Fabienne forgetting the watch was the catalyst for this, but she did not do it on purpose. She did not do it with malice, obviously. She cares about Butch. She felt bad that she forgot the watch. It was not an act, it wasn't any kind of charade that she was playing. She cared about Butch. She loves him. She wants to build a life with him.
Mm-hmm.
And him with her, obviously.
And another funny little thing about that scene where he comes across Marcellus, he's carrying a box of donuts and coffee. And I think you can see it as 2 cups of coffee, because I think the speculation is, why would he have a full box of donuts just randomly and be in the street? Someone pointed out that maybe Marcellus was actually waiting with Vincent, but he went out to get donuts and coffee for him when Butch came to the apartment, and Vincent was in the toilet. And that's why he has a full box. Like, because obviously Jules, at this point in the movie, we haven't found out, isn't with Vincent, because what we find out in the final act of the movie, how
the coffee shop.
He's gonna walk the earth. So obviously he's retiring officially, and maybe Marcellus just felt that extra, like, I want to see the look on his face when we so on and so forth. He wants to be there for the kill and make an example of him.
Exactly. Yeah,
That.
exactly.
Yep.
I agree.
I think so.
So that's a very good observation, Ice. Very good.
Thank you.
So, any other thoughts on the Gold Watch, fellas? Do you want to move on, or is there something else you want to discuss in terms of that?
The fact that Vincent always kind of seems to be in the bathroom when certain events are happening. Someone pointed out, does that suggest that Vincent's life is in the toilet? I think it was, who was that guy's name? Renegade Cuts? I'm not sure.
He's just a fuck up. Vincent is a total fuck up.
Yeah, exactly.
Kinda, yeah. Okay, more than kinda, yeah. So, all right. I've picked the last couple. You guys, what sequence do we want to discuss next? Zach or Ace, I don't care who picks.
All
Well, we haven't really discussed from the very beginning, so I think if we do it like what would be chronologically at this point, so like the conversation between Pumpkin and Honey Bunny, Jules and Vincent, and the final scene in the diner, if that's all right with you. Even though technically Honey Bunny and Pumpkin would be in between, but we can do either or.
Good with me, yeah. So, good with you, Mr. Zach?
Of course.
Okay, let's hit it.
Who wants to start?
I always start. One of you start.
Just goes.
All right. Well, I like the idea of book ending a film, and I always kind of have. I mean, you start with something very interesting, and it all ties together at the end. It's a very effective narrative tool, and I think it works great here. I mean, you've got these 2 weirdos, right? I mean, they're very strange people. Tim Roth doing a great job. Who's the actress?
Amanda Plummer, I believe.
Yep, very very good, very good. And we're kind of wondering throughout the film what's going to happen with them, right? And it all ties together perfectly.
Yeah, they end up walking away.
But they're another element of surprise,
and it's very interesting. Like,
go ahead.
Go ahead, Ace.
I was gonna say it's kind of very interesting. Like I said, this is my very first Tarantino flick, and how, like, hearing this dialogue, I first thought, who talks like this? Some people think it is Tarantino's authentic style, not natural dialogue, but it's fun. It's dialogue that you can remember, and you can find yourself, like, with your friends who've seen the movie, like, maybe quote back and forth to things like, well, I'm not sure about that scene entirely, but just the type of dialogue, you just kind of think about how like memorable it is, even though it's so unnatural. And if you listen carefully, as they're talking about the whole robbing and whatnot, you could hear in the background a conversation between Jules and Vincent about the whole thing about the miracle and whatnot.
Mm.
Yeah,
You
you have
kind
to
of can.
listen very carefully. It's just you can
Well,
barely
and
hear
vice
it.
versa, because
Yeah,
and vice versa, because when Jules and Vincent are talking about the miracle, you can kind of hear high points or highlights of the conversation between Honey Bunny and Pumpkin.
Garçon means boy.
Garçon means boy. Garçon, coffee. One of these days, I'm going to go to the restaurant and I'm going to say that, hopefully, to a male waiter, and hopefully he gets the reference. If he doesn't, I'm going to look at him and like, where are they teaching you in school?
Well, hopefully, if it's a woman and knows the reference, she'll just say "garçon" means boy.
Oh, that would be, honestly, that would be even better. But the whole idea of two career criminals sitting in a coffee shop, or a diner in this case, not a coffee shop, a diner, talking about how different ways of robbing banks, and they talk about, just like you and I would talk about movies or talk about other normal everyday things, and they're talking about committing crime like it's just common to them. I mean, obviously they're thieves, they're robbers, whatever the case may be. And it's just so freaking effortless to them, when anybody else would be like, why are we talking about robbing people and not trying to kill anybody? Now, that's the one funny thing I will say about this. They will rob a person, but they won't kill. And, you know, the whole sequence, moving on a little bit, to Jules and
Vincent.
Vincent, the car scene where they're talking about the little differences between America and Europe, and the fact that you can go into a theater in Amsterdam and get a glass of beer, not a paper cup, a freaking glass of beer. And I'm thinking, well, we can do that now in America.
Yeah,
Except the beer
exactly.
probably sucks. Except the beer
Depends
sucks.
on the theater. Depends on the theater. I remember one theater went up
That's
to
true.
back up in Ohio. Like they would have Yingling on tap, and they'd pour it me in like what was essentially like a Rolo cup of transparent. It was good. And no more did I have to sneak beer in.
And the fact that they were talking about the hash bar and everything, and doing that sort of thing. Intriguing concept, I won't lie. Of the fact that weed is legal in Amsterdam and Holland, essentially, and Jules is like, "Oh, dude, I'm definitely going now," and just that whole conversation, and it coined another phrase that we even now. It's more of a '90s phrase, but it was very popular during the '90s. The Royale with cheese. The Roy. They don't know what a quarter pounder is. They have the metric system, so they call it a Royale with cheese. I think the next time I go into McDonald's, the one that I don't work at, I'm gonna say that and see if the person who takes my order knows what I'm talking about. I won't do it in the drive-thru, but I'll do it in the lobby. That way, I'm not taking up as much time.
There you
I'm
go.
just gonna see if they get that reference.
Yeah, I get that. That way you can look in their eyes and see if they light up. It's like, oh yeah, and
You
make
get
sure.
it.
Make sure if you get a Big Mac, you say Le Big Mac.
La Big Mac. So
and I remember also like Vincent saying, like, you know what they do? Put on their French fries over in whatever country.
mayonnaise,
Yeah,
Holland mayonnaise.
yeah, and Jules is like, ugh, I see him drown in that crap, man. And I was curious, so I've actually tried it. It's actually not that bad.
It isn't
Fattening, but not that bad.
Yeah, not that bad. Zach, let me ask you: have you ever put mayonnaise on your French fries or dipped them in mayonnaise?
Yeah, I mean mayonnaise mixed with ketchup. That's the move.
Okay,
No
fair
mixing.
enough.
Good.
But I mean, I'm kind of a ranch guy, man. I'll dip in the ranch. But
Honey
I've
mustard.
tried the
You
mayonnaise
cannot go wrong with ranch. Ranch
tried
goes
the
on
mayonnaise
practically everything.
mixed with the ketchup, which is I think called mayo chup.
They actually have that. Heinz has actually made mayo chup. You don't have to mix it anymore. You can buy it in the squeeze bottle now.
I mean, it's a little hillbilly like, but it's not terrible.
What are you talking hillbilly? No, 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 no,
If,
no
if,
hillbilly here. No.
if you want a hillbilly
Remember?
condiment, I got one that I kind of stole from online from Good Burger. It's a mix of mayonnaise, barbecue sauce, Thousand Island dressing, pickle relish, and some seasonings. And it's good on a burger and great for dipping in fries. I've made it twice. It's awesome. But obviously, because the mayonnaise kind of fattening, so you can't have it too often. But if some people are grossed out with the idea of dipping your fries in mayonnaise, like, oh, that's fattening. The amount of sugar and ketchup, people have some consistency. That's all I'm
Yeah,
asking.
exactly. Yeah. Anyway, moving on from they of course get to the building and they're talking about the foot massage and they're like they're still outside by the car and they're opening up the trunk and they're like, how many is up there? Like 4 or 5. He's like, we should have shotguns for this sort of deal. And Jules is like, yeah, we definitely should have shotguns for this sort of thing. And all they've got is I think it's like a Glock or something, but good pistol.
My
When it's not
cousin
that
would
grown
know.
up.
I would say it's a 9mm, just roughly looking at it, because that's go-to in movies. My cousin will tell me, no, that's not a 9mm. It's this, that, and the other.
Yeah, but either way, good pistol either way.
Yeah, I don't see
But
why
then the other guy comes out of the room and with a freaking revolver, freaking hand cannon.
It was bigger than him.
What's the matter? Slip your mind? Somebody was in the bathroom with a freaking hand cannon?
I mean, even with not even taking into account the hand cannon, why would you need shotguns if it's just 4, maybe 5 guys, and one of them is your informant? Like, if you're quick and whatnot, and also how cool and casual they kind of approach in the room, they need shotguns. If they were kicking down the door, going in all guns blazing, like in the scene with The Godfather, then I could see that. But they're just kind of going in casual and whatnot. And
exactly.
You can see that they're flashing their pistols casually, as intimidation. So they didn't need shotgun.
Not even close. And of course, another great quote, Ezekiel 25:17. I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger.
Those who attempt to poison and destroy my
brothers. And you will know my name is the Lord when I lay my vengeance upon thee.
Yeah, and obviously for anyone who's been kind of curious, like from that movie, none of that is in the actual Bible. The only part that is and you will know my name is the Lord when I lay my vengeance upon thee. It's classic Tarantino, make up something for the movie and make it seem like it's the real thing. He did the exact same thing in Kill Bill with Bill's perception of Superman, but I'll save that for a Kill Bill rant. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yes. But still, the chew out between Jules and Brett. What? What does Marcellus Wallace look like? What? Do you speak English?
What country are you
from? Do they speak English and what? What?
English, mother effer! Do you speak it? I once snuck up on a friend in the middle of the night and just because they knew I'd be waiting for them. And from afar, I just go, they speak English and what? I scared the crap out of them. Ah!
Okay. Zach, your thoughts on the briefcase scene, the apartment.
Yeah, the whole scene has got a bunch of iconic lines. I mean, you guys mentioned a bunch of them. You got, that is a tasty burger, right? You got a lot of good ones. The briefcase thing is interesting. Quentin wanted the film to have secrets. That's what he said. He believes that makes the film more interesting. I tend to agree with that.
Yes.
You want some kind of a conversation to come from a movie, and that's definitely it's a conversation piece.
It's one of the greatest MacGuffins in the history of cinema.
It is.
It's up there with the Maltese. It's up there with the Maltese Falcon.
Supposedly, either early on in the script before a rewrite, Quentin wanted it to just be a briefcase full of diamonds, but decided, no, let's not show. Let's kind of keep it a mystery. And that whole fan theory of, it contains Marcellus's soul. That's why it glows. That's why it has 666 on the code. And that's why Marcellus has the Band-Aid, because, that's where they extract the soul. That's fan reaching, because keep in mind, Vincent opens the thing, stares at it, and later on, if he doesn't believe in miracles, then wouldn't you believe in miracles if you saw a guy's soul in a briefcase? So it's just a reaching theory.
It's a wild theory.
Or
but it's one of the most popular ones.
You know what? I think it's one of my favorites. Yeah, and it's the theory that I hold the most, because here's the thing.
It's fun, but it's reaching.
Vincent is not
I think so.
But here's the thing. Vincent is not a person of any type of spiritual or religious belief. Jules obviously is. And potentially Pumpkin, or not Pumpkin, Honey Bunny potentially is.
Ringo.
Yeah. So what if they see what their mind has trained them, or their belief system, whether it's absent or not, wants them to see? Vincent sees nothing. Ringo sees a soul. Now, obviously, this is it's okay. I don't want to go too deep on this because I don't want to lose you guys, and I don't want to lose the audience. But we all have a perception of the world. We all have an idea of what the world is made up of and what certain things should and shouldn't look like. From the perspective of a person who is of deep religious belief, who is in fact was raised Protestant, is now Catholic, went to seminary. For someone of deep religious belief, if I opened that case and I saw one soul, I would potentially know that's what it is. For someone else, what they have trained their mind to see would be whatever they see in that case, which may not be a soul at all. It may be something extremely mundane, or it might be something that is potentially supernatural, but they have no way of expressing what they're seeing. It's like if an angel from heaven appeared before you. How would you know it's an angel if you were a person that does not believe? For you, it might be an absolutely... That's true, too. Your mind may not be able to comprehend what you're seeing at first, but depending on how long the interaction is, you can build a frame of reference and finally be able to express, maybe in a very basic way, what it is that you saw or what you experienced. The same principle carries here with the briefcase that may potentially carry Marcellus Wallace's soul. But I digress.
All right, so should we move forward to the part after Seinfeld tries to kill them, and they're talking in the car then with what was the actor's name? Phil Lamar, I think, is the name of the actor who's Marvin.
The name of the actor is Phil Marvin. Yeah, Marvin was the name of the character that Phil Lamar played.
Yeah. And for those of you who don't know, Phil Lamar is, you might know him as the voice of Green Lantern from the Justice League cartoon, or maybe even Static Shock from the cartoon. I know him kind of first as a cast member of Mad TV back in the mid-90s. Just a little piece of trivia.
Yes. That's what I know him from too. So, yeah, let's move on to the scene between Jules and Vincent and Marvin, because Marvin's the only one that makes it out of that apartment alive. Everybody else is dead.
He was an informant.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration? Yeah, you did. You should. Yeah. And then he's a informant without a head. And they're all covered in brains and guts and blood and stuff.
Why'd you do that? It's funny. You shot Marvin in the face. No, they say Marvin has no head. When you get a glimpse of the body when they toss in the trunk briefly, he still has a head. Just looks like his nose has been caved in.
Well, considering where Vincent shot him, it potentially may have gone through his forehead, considering the blood spatter. So he would have hit all those veins and so on in your forehead, and then all the veins in the back of your head. So all that blood and just the sheer force of the gun and everything, and the close range and everything. You consider how close he's like he's like maybe a foot away from Marvin, from the front seat to the back seat, and Marvin is leaning forward.
Yeah, you're
and the confined space of the exit was massively bigger. That's where all the blood and brain came from. So and that was shot out of his ears too. Because the messiest part of the car was the back of it and the back seat. The front had some blood spatter, but not that much. So I will say this. They obviously did some good forensic work for that particular scene because they wanted to make sure it was accurate. So Zach, Ace, your thoughts on that scene?
I defer to Ace.
Of course you do.
Well, when you put it like that, like how like the exit wound. So I can see that now. Like there is no head. It was probably, since we only the blinking missing moment of the body in the trunk, we only see the front of it. Entry wound, so maybe it was just the exit wound that was, the head was missing or whatever. Mm-hmm. And like I said earlier, like Vincent was dumb enough to turn around with a loaded gun in hand, and his finger was on the trigger. I know he's not exactly the brightest hitman, but the biggest gun safety rule that, like, as someone who's gone to a shooting range, I don't own any guns, but the biggest thing they emphasize, unless you're going to pull the trigger, don't put your finger on it, which is a big thing also when that the people who own guns for self-defense and cops are told as well.
Yeah, exactly. And only a dumbass would. I mean, what's the point of holding the gun in your hand? Are you that dim? You've got the guy. He's the informant. He's your inside guy. He's no threat.
I think also, since it actually just reminded me of like this other theory, since they were having this whole discussion about God interference and whatnot. Like, oh, did he stop the bullets? The instant he turns around, I was like, what do you mean? You gotta have it. Did God come down and stop the bullet? Pow! So I think, did he do that intentionally to kind of prove a point?
Yeah, but what's the point of shooting Marvin? Unless he's just that crappy incidentally that good of a shot. Well, of course, Vega at that range, it'd be hard to miss the guy's head.
Well, Vincent Vega was the other Vega from Reservoir Dogs' brother, and he was a psycho, so maybe Vincent has a touch of that as well. I mean,
another loser though, right?
Yeah.
Buck, wasn't that his name? Buck?
No, Michael Madsen.
No, Madsen. You're thinking of Michael Madsen from Kill Bill. Michael Madsen from Reservoir Dogs. He was Mr. Blonde.
Oh,
yeah, okay, it was Michael Madsen. Yeah, I was thinking Mac Mickelson or
Mads Mikkelsen?
Yes, that was the name I was thinking of. Then I thought, no, that's not it. It was Michael Madsen.
Michael Madsen. Yeah, Michael Madsen and Reservoir Dogs is Mr. Blonde and
Vic Vega.
Yeah, Vic Vega and Vincent Vega.
Yeah.
Vic Vega. You think you would name your kids more distinctly? Vic Vega, Vincent Vega. It's like having one kid named Kayla and another one named Kylie.
Well, obviously the Vega family doesn't have the biggest brains in the world. So, and maybe alliteration's one of their things. Just saying.
Maybe.
But
So.
I love the nonchalant way John Travolta just goes, "Oh man, I shot Marvin in the face." He does. I mean, he doesn't even. That's one of the greatest lines of the movie.
Oh man,
Jules,
I
why'd
shot
you do
Marvin
that?
in the face. I didn't mean to. Well, you did, you dumbass. He's like, we gotta find a place. He's like, we're out in the middle of broad daylight, and you shot a guy in the head. He's like, we gotta find a place to find cover. And he's like, I don't have that many partners in this area. Thankfully, they find Jimmy, played by, of course, our favorite guy, Tarantino is Jimmy. And the Jimmy situation, oh my gosh, comical and serious. Okay, honestly, I think this is the comedic break of the movie because it's been kind of heavy up until this point. This was the more comedic part of this movie because you got Harvey Keitel as Mr. Winston Wolfe, one of the coolest, slickest, calmest, yet potentially dangerous characters in this movie. He wants to make you disappear. You're going to freaking disappear. But Keitel's performance as Mr. Wolfe, chef's kiss. Perfect. He's the cherry on top of the perfection sundae.
Absolutely.
He's there in a freaking tux. He's not the tallest guy in the room, and yet he commands absolute freaking authority. And I have to admit, the part where... Go ahead, Zach.
Has a great reputation. I mean, Marcellus's guys know this guy takes care of business. I mean, once Sam hears his name, he's like, all right, I don't even...
You said the wolf? That's all you got... That Negro, that's all you got to say.
Yep. No, the wolf takes care of shit,
That'll
man. Marcellus's guys know that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, of course. Marcellus has got an operation where he's got to have a guy that can clean up a mess. And I love that character. If I ever met Harvey Keitel in real life, I would tell him, I have loved all your roles in every movie I've ever seen you in. But you as Winston Wolfe is by far my all-time favorite role that you have ever done. I wouldn't gush over him or anything, but I've been like, Mr. Keitel, or Harvey if you prefer, I've seen many of your movies and you were excellent at all of them, but my all-time favorite performance of yours is as Mr. Winston Wolfe from Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, I love Harvey Keitel as a dude too. Like just watching his.
Yeah,
he was booked to play the Sidney Pollack. No, Sidney what in Eyes Wide Shut. Sidney something. Who's that actor?
I have no idea.
Okay, well he was going to play the one of the lead dudes in Eyes Wide Shut, and he got fired because Kubrick had him do like 39 takes of some stupid scene of opening a door or something like that. And they're interviewing him. He's like, "Is that the Brooklyn in you?" And he goes, "No, it's the sense of worth in me that won't allow that."
You know, I'll say this of Kubrick. I'll say this quickly. He was a great director. He was just a little bit too pretentious for his own damn good. You fired Keitel from your movie Grant. I cannot stand Eyes Wide Shut. I hate that movie. It's one of the most obnoxiously boring, stupidest movies I've ever seen in my life, and I will never watch it again. I watched it once in theaters. You're not missing much. Trust me.
I heard
Ace.
It's a sex cult movie. I'm not interested in sex cult movies.
But yeah,
it's not even that sexual.
Sidney Pollack,
it wasn't even that sexual.
It's just boring.
Okay, Sidney Pollack's character.
Yeah. So, but Keitel was cast. He was on set, and he said, "Fuck this! I'm not doing 39 takes of opening a door."
I don't blame him. I wouldn't either. I'd look at Kubrick and say, "Take your pretentious Canadian ass back up north of the border and eat some Canadian ham and drink some maple syrup until you die of cardiac arrest."
Canadian. I thought he was British.
Either way, I don't care.
Great little quote though by Keitel. Love that. Is that the sense of worth in you? No. Is that the Brooklyn in you? No. It's a sense of worth in me. Love that.
Yeah. Kubrick, I respect as a filmmaker, but he was a nut.
Just more than
By the
somewhat,
way,
yes.
Keitel, a integral part of the Tarantino backstory, helped him fund Reservoir Dogs, the one we reviewed last time. So Keitel, great guy. He's got an eye for talent, no doubt about it.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. Absolutely does. But that whole sequence, he's like, Jules is like, why the hell am I scooping up the skull? You should be the one on brain detail. Jules is pissed, and I don't blame him. I would be too. But the interaction between Jimmy and Vincent and Jules, let's focus on that for a few minutes, guys. Your thoughts on that particular aspect of the scene.
Ace?
And Zach, I'm going to force your hand.
Hey, man, I tried to help out. I put in the private chat, send it to Ace first.
Oh, I
clear it up.
I didn't even look at the chat. Sorry, I haven't.
Private, not public. Obviously, we're doing this way. So, go ahead, Ace.
Other than the whole dead slur storage, it was, like you said earlier, just hilarious of Tarantino, and just to think that this guy reaches him. I mean, his partner. We don't know in what way him and Jules are partners, but he's got to be familiar enough with the Jules line of work to know that he's a hitman for Marcellus and that this is someone that he shot. And he's like, you bring a dead body in my house. He's not worried like, about, he's not stunned like a dead body. You're a hitman. He's clearly knows, but he's like, this is his limit. Cause obviously his wife's coming home. He's like, oh God, like this will get us divorced, you stupid. Because it makes you wonder, does he have some ties into Jules' line of work? Because why would his wife divorce him? Like he couldn't just lie and say, "Oh, these guys." It might uncover something in theory. Like maybe he has some. He's not necessarily like involved in Marcellus's business, but maybe he's got his own side, like dirty project he does on the side of whatever his day job is. Because we see him at home when it's like. And he says, wife gets home in 15, 20 minutes from the graveyard shift. That's pretty early. So that's like from like 9 o'clock to 7 o'clock, I think, or roughly.
Graveyard shift would be from like 9 to 9 or something like that. 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. or something along those lines. It'd be a 12-hour shift.
Yeah, and he's still at home in his bathrobe drinking coffee. So it makes you wonder, does he not work during the day, or does he have like some at-home business and this, that, and the other? Who knows?
Something like that. Who knows?
He's mysterious. You're right. He's very mysterious.
But the thing is, we're not meant to know that much about him. We just know that he is a friend or a compatriot or whatever way you want to phrase it of Jules. And he's like, Bonnie comes home, sees all this. I'm not getting a trial separation. We're not going to counseling. I'm getting divorced. And he's like, I don't want to get divorced. He's like, I want to help you, dude. He's like, I don't want to lose my wife. Because he obviously loves her. She loves him. But he's not going to screw up his marriage for some gangster crap. That's not happening. That's the line that he won't cross. So he's like, do what you call who you gotta call, do what you gotta do, and then get your ass the hell out of here so that my wife doesn't catch y'all's asses here.
And that makes you wonder, like I said, if maybe he has some ties to them, like not full-blown Marcellus. Maybe he's like bumped into other people before. Maybe a couple different people. Maybe he's an informant like Marvin was.
Or maybe he doesn't seem too fazed by the situation either. He's pretty.
Or maybe he's a contract. Maybe he's in the same vein as Winston Wolfe. Maybe he's a contractor for Marcellus and only works with him when Marcellus needs a particular job done.
Maybe but you would think he would know the Wolf. I don't know.
Well, maybe not because certain people know the wolf, and other people may not know of the wolf. I
True,
mean,
Vince
the
didn't know
wolf.
the wolf.
Yeah, Jules knows of the wolf, but Vincent doesn't, or at least addresses him in a way that he doesn't know that he doesn't know him, or doesn't know of him even. He just knows to respect him because he's there to get his ass out of a jam, but a jam that he made. So, but the interactions of this whole scene, I mean, you've got the one of my favorite parts is Tarantino deliberately backs up out of the scene. You figure, okay, the camera is just over his shoulder. It's almost like he's looking at the scene within the scene itself, and you're like, okay, that's actually kind of cool. I like that because we all know who Tarantino is. We know that he will at least give himself at least one cameo in a movie, and this is his cameo. So it's almost a POV for us as the audience as to Tarantino scoping a shot to see if everything is to his liking. And you figure, okay, this is the frame. This shot is framed the way that Tarantino wants it, because we don't know if there's necessarily a cut there, because obviously we wouldn't know if there is a cut. But he's watching the scene as it's happening, which is actually kind of, like I said, it's kind of a cool dynamic in that particular instance. So.
Well, Quentin always wanted to be an actor. I mean, that was kind of his passion before directing. And this is right around the same time. So after they did this movie, they announced Four Rooms. I don't know if you guys saw that, which is kind of Pulp Fiction-y.
I have heard of it, but I've never seen it, but I've heard it is rather good. That's what I've heard.
Yeah, and that's Quentin working with Rodriguez. You know, maybe for the first time. That might be.
I think so. I think that was the first time that Quentin and Robert Rodriguez worked together. Man,
I think they were pals prior to that. They seemed like old friends, you know. And
yeah, definitely.
It's very Pulp Fiction-y because it's four disconnected stories set at the same hotel. Starring, by the way, Tim Roth.
Yes, that part. That's the one part of the movie I know. It stars Tim Roth, and I know that it was done by Tarantino, or Tarantino was in it, and Rodriguez directed.
And I think Quentin directed one of the four stories. I think he had four directors.
Yeah, well, Tarantino even was a guest director for Sin City, if you remember.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
that's right.
That's one I'm definitely gonna have to put on the books for a review down the road, because I love that movie.
Same. And I think the only reason he wasn't credited officially in the movie was because of Directors Guild issues or something.
Yeah,
like you couldn't have more than two.
Yeah, and hey, that's
Frank Miller, which is a classy move. That's a classy move, by the way.
Yes,
you didn't have to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but obviously, the guys get out of Dodge. They take the car to Monster Joe's truck and tow. We meet Julia Sweeney, who was then at the time a cast member on Saturday Night Live, and they go, and and Winston's like, "I'm gonna take my lady here out for breakfast. Can I drop you guys off somewhere?" And they're like, Rondano. Yeah, call me Winston. At the end of everything, he's like,
right.
He's like, I see an image of your future. I see you both sharing a cab. Move out of the six, you crazy kids. And then and Vincent's like, you want to share a cab with me? Have some breakfast? And Jules is like, yeah, I wouldn't mind having breakfast, especially after a day I've had. And of course, we end where we began, in the diner. Same diner where we met. We crossed paths with Pumpkin and Honey Bunny. And we have that great interaction between Jules and Vincent. And that's the only thing about Jules I don't like. He won't eat pork. That's the only character deficiency I do not like about Jules, is he does not like pork. I'm like, dude, they clean it, they wash it, they sanitize it. There's no dirt on that carcass. There's no dirt on that swine. It's sanitary and it's cooked.
I think he also. Sorry.
Go ahead, Ace. No, go
I
ahead.
think
You're
you.
fine.
I think you meant like not just that they roll around their crap, that they'll even eat their crap if it's mixed with their food and whatnot. That sort of thing.
Yeah, but
I
here's the thing.
think
Even
that's what he meant.
and that may very well be the case, but the point is, through the slaughtering and the butchering process, the pig carcass is thoroughly gutted and cleaned and sanitized, and it's made completely safe to eat.
Hmm.
So his bias against eating pork is completely unfounded. Now, if he was a Muslim or Jewish, okay, I'd see his point. But I understand the pig does what it does. I still eat bacon. I still eat pork chops. I still eat ham. I still eat baby back ribs and full back ribs. I love pig. I love cow. If it oinks or moos, I eat it. The only thing I will not ever eat is dog. Never.
Yeah, but it's dogs got personality. And will you eat if it clucks or baas?
I will eat that too. Yes, I will eat chicken. I will eat lamb, and I have eaten both.
This is a video that will be loved by PETA and vegans alike. People eating tasty
The ambassadorial wing is not anti-veganism, but we are not necessarily full supporters of veganism. We are carnivores here. We will eat anything.
Yeah, I'm a Polak. I'm naturally a carnivore. I just love to antagonize. Come over to my channel sometime. Maybe I'll show you how to cook a steak properly in skillet sometime.
I know how to do that. Okay.
I used hickory salt yesterday. It was good.
Okay, Zach, your thoughts on the diner scene? You cannot defer to Ace. He's already given his thoughts. Your turn. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, a great ending, right? I mean, you've got the setup at the top of the film. You've got Vincent and Jules kind of talking things through and really giving a substantial perspective to the Sam Jackson character, which is, I think, before everything kind of goes to hell, the most intriguing part of that whole sequence.
Yes.
Sam Jackson is an interesting character, man. Jules is an interesting guy, and it gives us further insights into his character. He's a righteous hitman, which is a really unique type of character. I mean, it's interesting, man. He's kind of like a philosopher.
Righteous hitman. That's an interesting way of putting it. I kick ass for the Lord.
Pretty much. I mean, pretty much. And,
he
believes he's had a godly experience prior to this, and that's influenced his point of view to the nth degree.
Very much so. And I think, okay, let's backtrack just a smidgen. In the aftermath of the kid coming out with the hand cannon, look where the bullets are at. Around their shoulders, or even where they were standing. And yet neither one of them were hit. Now, in the context of the movie, I would definitely say, yes, that was divine intervention. Now, obviously, it had no effect on Vincent, but it had an effect on Jules.
He got a mulligan, basically. That's how he saw it. He's like, okay, I see what happened. Is I was supposed to die there, and I didn't.
And, that's the interesting aspect of this movie. Jules in particular. Of all the characters, granted, yeah, he's probably killed more than his fair share of people. But except for maybe Butch, Fabienne, Butch's significant other, and the cab driver, Esmeralda, he is probably the only... He has had... To put this in a biblical context, he has had his Damascus Road experience. For those of you who don't know necessarily what that means in a biblical context, on the road to Damascus, Paul, the apostle, had a vision of Christ post-resurrection, and that converted him to Christianity. Jules had the same experience. Well, had a similar experience, and obviously not the same. But it made Jules realize there was something greater in life than just working for Marcellus. There was something greater in the world than just the mundane that he sees day after day.
It took
And
him
made
out of
him
his
realize. Go ahead.
life.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it took him out of his life where he's like, okay, it's a fresh start now. That's done.
Yeah.
He's basically the only character in the film who at the end of the film is a different guy. He has a total 180. He's got the most character development in the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a testament to Samuel L. Jackson's ability as an actor to carry that sort of character arc from a very hard-boiled, very hard-edged, hard-nosed hitman to essentially going a complete 180 and becoming a man who is a man of essentially nonviolence, or only committing violence when absolutely necessary, because he says to Ringo, to Honey Bunny, I'm trying real hard here to be the shepherd. Now, granted, that line of, as you pointed out, Zach, earlier, that line of text does not exist in that particular form in the Bible, in the book of Ezekiel, obviously.
His newfound experience has overcome his past. That's what that is.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a really great story about casting where there was this guy, Paul Calderon. I don't even know who this guy is. I mean, maybe I've seen him before. It doesn't ring a bell to me, but this dude had the part, came in with Sam, nailed the audition, and they had the studio guys, everybody was there, and Paul came in and killed it to the point where they said, it's Paul is going to play Jules.
Mm-hmm.
And Sam went in kind of like half cocky, thinking, I already got the job. Quentin told me, I got something for you. But Paul came in and outdid Sam. So what happened is they were still confused. Quentin still liked Sam, and he said, okay, Paul killed it. Sam was good, but he wasn't great. So let's do another session. And they went in, they did their thing on a Sunday. Paul and Sam, they did a 90-minute audition each and went through the whole thing. And by the end of it, Paul came up to Quentin and said to him, that first audition, I was great. This time, Sam Jackson is following me. This is the one time after he was told it wasn't his. He's like, all right, I saw I was vulnerable here. So I get it. And Sam came in the second time realizing it wasn't his and just murdered it. They said that Paul was incredible, even on that second audition. They went to lunch, they took a break, they said, it's Paul. How could anybody do a better job? They came back and Sam killed it.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, it's a testament to Sam Jackson's ability as an actor. I would say this is probably one of his most memorable semi-dramatic roles. I would say his other one is, of course, as Mr. Glass in Unbreakable. He was great in that movie. I don't care what anybody says about Shyamalan now, but Unbreakable,
it's a
great movie.
It is.
Yeah, absolutely great movie. And it's actually sort of a reunion between Samuel Jackson and Bruce Willis, because remember, both of them were in Unbreakable as well. They were the two principal characters.
Oh, you're talking movie Glass.
No, I'm talking about Unbreakable.
Glass, I think they did a second one called Glass. So same thing.
Yeah, that was the sequel.
Yeah.
It's actually a part of a trilogy, unintentionally, because it goes Unbreakable, Split, and then Glass. Glass was the finale. Was the final part of the trilogy. Because in Split, James McAvoy is introduced as the character with all the multiple personalities. He gets captured, put in the institution, and there's like a stinger scene or whatever, or a post-credit scene that shows Bruce Willis's character, David Dunn, afterwards. And then in Glass is already in the institution. James McAvoy's character from Split is in the same institution, and then David Dunn somehow or another Bruce Willis's character ends up in the same facility as the other two. And I think all three of them end up dying.
And then Sam Jackson tries to co-opt McAvoy's character to join him.
Yeah, that if I remember correctly, yes. Yeah.
Yep.
I haven't actually seen it. I've heard of both. I heard both Split and Glass were actually really good, but I've never actually had a chance to see
They were
it.
okay.
Split was great.
Yes,
That's
as a character, like the acting was great.
I never saw Glass myself, so I don't know.
Glass, it's okay.
Yeah. So, but Sam Jackson's part in Pulp Fiction, he's funny, he's intimidating, he's thoughtful, and at the end, he's very introspective, and he nails all those beats. He nails every single one of those beats and does it well. I mean, I know Sam Jackson is primarily known as a action movie star to varying degrees, but when he's given a good dramatic role, he nails it. Jules, in his more dramatic aspect, he nails it as Glass. In Unbreakable, he nails it there too.
He's
very
an
much
all-time
so.
great, man. He's an all-time great. He might be my favorite actor. Period. He's got a great range to him. Even him playing Mace Windu. Take a look at Phantom Menace. That dude is so subdued. That dude is at peace in that character. I mean, man, Sam can make me watch a terrible movie just because he's in it. I mean, Sam is so good.
Like Snake on a Plane.
Yeah, I love that movie because of Sam.
Underrated movie that he was in. Underrated because, you know, some people look at like, oh, late 90s, Deep Blue Sea. Great shark movie. It is not.
Oh, I love that movie.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah. Yes.
Not to mention he gets 8 mid-sentence.
Yeah.
Yes.
First off this boom.
I got two for you. Sphere. Have you guys seen Sphere?
Yes. Yes, I love Sphere.
Oh,
I got
so fucking good. Sphere is so good. And then 187.
Never seen that, but
187 is so good. So good.
Yeah. There's another one he plays. He plays kind of a creepy character. He's a cop, but he's kind of deranged or something. I can't remember the name of the movie.
Terrace.
That's it. Lakeview Terrace.
Oh,
That's
man. Love that movie.
All right.
Is that the one where he's the neighbor and he's a cop or whatever? Or,
yeah.
I thought so.
Love Lakeview Terrace.
Okay. Let's not get too far off on a tangent. Yeah. So,
but we agree. Sam, one of the all-time greats, man. That dude is box office.
Harvey Keitel. Harvey Keitel, Christopher Walken, and Bruce Willis are the standout in this movie.
Highest grossing actor of all time, Sam Jackson. There's a reason for that.
I believe it. Yeah, because he picks good shows or good movies or good franchises to be in. So, all right. Any final thoughts on Pulp Fiction, gentlemen? So we'll start to wrap this up.
It's a weird movie. It's refreshing considering what we've been receiving over the last 10 years. I mean, rewatching the film, it's real, unlike a lot of the stupid corporate bullshit we see now. Where they design a film based on box office. I mean, this movie had every opportunity to fail. It's so weird. It doesn't have a genre.
It didn't.
It's based on the pulp genre, which nobody has ever heard of, except for film guys, right? But I mean, Pulp Fiction is kind of your entryway into the pulp genre. It's weird. It's bizarre. It's meandering in a good way. But it won the Palme d'Or. It launched Quentin, and I think we're lucky because of that. One of you guys mentioned that the dialogue is kind of stiff in certain places in the movie. I think that's probably true, but it's good. I mean, it's like novelistic dialogue in a certain way. It takes its time. It's not afraid to go in weird directions.
Yeah.
And I think that approach was refined over time. I mean, it's a great start for Quentin. It's his second film. His second film, I believe.
Second film.
And the dialogue is
Yes.
great, but again, it takes its time. It's a little, tough, but in certain areas, a lot of great little one-liners. But the dialogue can drag on, and I think that you see the beginnings of true fucking greatness, genius with Quentin. Where by the time you get to like Django and some of these Inglorious Bastards, that shit has been totally refined. So, Pulp Fiction, I think, an all-time great. Beautiful camera work throughout the film. Great choice of music.
Yes.
Another Tarantino staple. Great fucking movie.
Absolutely. Ace?
And I didn't say that the dialogue was stiff. I just said who talks like this because it doesn't sound like natural dialogue. It's fun dialogue though that you can remember, and it is kind of that talk about nothing sort of thing, but taken to like the next level. And obviously, Tarantino was second movie. He hadn't refined that yet, and he did later on with some of his other movies. So, but it's still fun dialogue. It's not natural, but it's fun, and they do the job that some people say you need to have dialogue for, which is illustrating what the characters are, like who they are, like what are some of their aspects, without actually having them say it, like, "Oh, you're such a good this, that, and the other." They like we can gather from like that car scene with Vincent, like he likes hash and he likes to be able to get a beer at a movie theater, and he eats bad crap like McDonald's, and we can see that like later on, when they have to be hosed down, he's on the hefty side compared to Samuel L. Jackson, who only eats a muffin and a coffee at the diner. But I think that could have been because he just saw someone's brains blown out and he had to clean it up. He's like, I don't want no meat. And you can see also, part of his character progression. That might be me reading too much into it. Like he won't eat meat after killing someone, but it's a like Zach said, it's a fun little hangout movie you can watch with your buddies. You can almost probably watch it maybe once a month if you have some pals over, if you have like a regular movie night thing. Like this and The Big Lebowski and so forth.
Watch that movie.
Oh yeah, we should. And like when I first saw it, I didn't appreciate it because I was kind of movie snob or whatever I was at the time. This is post high school, but it grew on me over time, man. I can respect Tarantino as a filmmaker, and like I saw I had a VHS special edition of it at one point in time where it included, or not special edition, collector's edition, and it included like Tarantino commenting on like some deleted scenes, and he shows them. And I thought, okay, you can see his reasoning on this, but on like why he made this, but we can see the wisdom of him saying, okay, I had to cut it for this reason. This was like there was an extended sequence of Mia meeting Vincent with a video camera. It's like I realized I was being done by everybody, so I removed it, and so on and so forth. And it's a good movie. It's got the typical Tarantino tropes, like I said, the dialogue, the violence, feet. I will never understand that.
He's got a particular thing. My final thoughts, unless there was something else you want to say, Ace.
Oh, no. I was just going to make a joke, but I think, no. I'll save it for after the word. But yeah, that's kind of covers all my points.
Okay. My final thoughts on Pulp Fiction. It was, as I said at the start, the movie that introduced me to the incredible mind of Quentin Tarantino. It introduced me. It was a highlight of my teenage youth, of my high school years. It was a movie that blew me away then, blows me away even now. It's got everything that me as a movie fan loves. It's got comedy, it's got humor. Okay, it's got comedy, it's got action, it's got blood, it's got guts, it's got a scene that's kind of uncomfortable that I actually skip over and skip to the part where Butch goes back in and kicks some ass.
Oh, that.
Yeah, that scene. But to this day, 30 some odd years on, it is a movie that I do not regret ever seeing. My only regret is I never saw it in theaters. So hopefully one of these days, Quentin gets the rights back to all his movies and do a anniversary retrospective of his entire filmography, and I will be the one of the first ones in line to rewatch everything from Reservoir all the way to Hateful Eight or wherever they stop, because I love Quentin. I'm sure for all of you that are watching this, you love Quentin, and here we love Quentin. We love the man. Hope you all enjoyed this episode of 90s Retro Rewind podcast here on the Ambassador Wing. We will be back next month with episode 3, which will be, of course, Jackie Brown. So be sure, of course, to hit the like button, share your comments down below with anything me and the fellas discussed during this rather lengthy episode of the podcast. Make sure, if you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. Be sure to follow me on social media. You can find all my links over on the channel tab in my community tab and so on. I am on social media. I'm on Twitter/X. I'm on Instagram. So reach out to me there if you want to. My DMs are always open unless I've got you blocked. If I have you blocked, it's for a good reason. But that all being said, you all have a great day, great night, or great afternoon wherever you're at. We will see you all next time. And until next time, these are the ambassadors. Signing off.